With us now is Mr. Vincent Adams. He likes to be called Vinny, and he's an author, and the title of his book is Imitating the Fatherhood of God. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Good. And we know each other because your brother, Robin Adams, works with Live It Up. He's been talking to me about you for years, so I'm so excited that you're actually able to come on the show with me today.
I'm glad.
Now tell me about your book and why you decided to write this.
Well, I myself started out as a parent, as a single parent, and then I married a single parent, and then we had 2 kids together, and there was just a whole lot of change, a lot of stuff that goes on with that whole scenario right there, and I didn't know what I was doing, quite frankly. Over the years, I, in my own personal life and my Christian faith, I was still trying to find some way to get a handle on this daddy thing and how to be a great parent. And I started, keeping a journal and trying to figure out how to do this, in a spiritual way. And 13 years ago, I started this and then stopped, and because I felt like I didn't know where else to go with it. So I said, well, I could be a book, but then it's not enough. And then, late last year, a close friend of mine, we were hanging out, and then I showed him the manuscript, and he said, you really need to finish this. And so I gave myself about 2-3 weeks, and I said, let me sit down with it. And once I sat down, like, my head exploded because I had now another 13 years of experiences to really give it the life that it needed.
You just needed to write more chapters. You needed to live more life in order to get the rest of the chapters written, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think because I've been in many blended families myself. I've been married, I've had single kids, the whole gamut, okay? And I'm not gonna go into that here because it's all about you, but I think you're right. I think when you have a blended family, but you didn't really grow up in a blended family, how do you learn to blend things right? You kind of need a recipe book. You need some guidance.
Yeah.
And you came from wonderful parents. I know a lot about your father and your mother, very respectful, fabulous people. But I think in this day and age, family units are a little bit different. So how do you guide your reader through the process of being, especially a fatherhood, single dad?
I start out by really just putting my life on the line and saying, look, here's me. It's not pretty. It's not a stained glass, telltale story that you're gonna see. Could be any one of you out there. I tell the story of how even the event that created my child, I go into all of that, and to just let them see that this could happen to any one of you, and where do you go from there? What do you do at that point? It tackles all kinds of issues, very casual issues about I had the perspective, well, I expected her to take care of it, which is a hot issue in and of itself. But then she decided not to, and so now I was forced to become a parent in my mind and in the future in practice. And so I walked them through that in the introduction of how that comes to the place. And although it's entitled Imitating the Fatherhood of God, it suggests a lot of things, religiously or spiritually, but it's not a religious book. It utilizes scripture to just show people where I got my guidance from and how I applied that practically. So it's definitely for those who may not be of a Christian faith, to inspire them to see how whatever they choose to apply spiritually in their life, how those things can be utilized to apply, into their parenting. Because spirituality, if it all goes back to God, you're going to find something there to make it happen. And that's my point, is that we don't have the tools on our own. Finance and emotion is not enough to make a great parent. So you need something else.
A little bit of guidance.
Exactly.
A little bit of divine intervention once in a while.
Exactly.
And a little bit of brotherhood, somebody helping another person out.
Absolutely.
And I like the intention of this book. And a lot of times too, fathers' rights in this day and age are still not supported as well as a mother's rights. Can we touch upon that before we wrap up? Because I know that you're an expert at that now.
I spent a lot of time in the past several months working with the Bronx Borough President's Office, which, as I was trying to explore the platform for this book, I stumbled on just this whole community of people that have some ideas about what's going to help reduce the recidivism rate and what's going to help give these fathers tools. And the bottom line is the same issues exist. You have a court system that is not designed to advocate for a positive outlook on the father's commitment to the home, the father's desire to be involved, the father's diligence in attempting to create an income stream. Like, none of those things are assumed by the system that we live in. Instead, it's to the contrary, and so it's an upward battle all the time. And they get discouraged. They don't show up to the court because they think that they've already defeated before they start. So what do? You know, that's the system that we're living in. And so, you know, I feel like these kinds of principles are going to give people the internal fortification to deal with something that is bigger than them at the time. You know, a system, you're talking about a whole system that's designed that way. So then you need a lot more to deal with that and still see the reason to go forward and be a great parent.
Vincent, it's amazing that you've been helping people, you know, especially single dads, make a difference in their lives. And it's such a pleasure to finally meet you in person. And to get your book, what is your website?
It's fatherhoodofgod.net, okay. And it's also available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
There you go, Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. It's a great gift, or somebody should just buy it for themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Stay tuned for more on LiveItUpTVShow.com. This is Donna Drake, and I've been with Vincent Adams. Love the Adams boys.